Hey guys, welcome to Revamp, the podcast, where we are revamping the way adults do life. I'm your host, Felicia Creighton.
And I'm your co-host, Andrea Creighton. Let's get into today's topic.
So I'm super excited about this. I say that about every single one because I really am excited because once we have the conversation on the phone, I'm like, we got to talk about this on Revamp.
Yeah.
This one, it goes in line with all of them because it's just the season that we're in.
Mm-hmm.
But we're having this discussion with friends and we hear friends, things we see on social media. And I wanted to talk about choosing the perfect partner.
Ooh.
Are we striving to choose perfection in a partner? Is that what we're looking? Are we looking for absolute perfection? Is this the trouble that we're having? Why no one is getting into relationships and having successful marriages? They're not even getting to engagement status at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Or people are kind of hanging out in the engagement phase because we are looking, I feel like both parties were both going in looking for flaws. And I know I was a huge flaw catcher, which is why I probably have never had a relationship.
Flaw catcher.
Yeah, flaw catcher. I'm
Wow.
like, I'm going in, and it was really it was a protective mechanism I would use.
Mhm.
Like, if I can go in and see, his tooth kind of hangs to the right a bit, it kind of protects me. So it's like, if he ever does something, it's like, oh, well, his tooth hangs to the right. Like, it would be just the most
And
insane.
especially in the circle of Christian circle, because it's like, listen, you need to wait on God's best. And we'll throw that out there.
Yeah.
But I think we really need to talk about that. What does God's best look like?
Yeah, when someone asks you, like, you need to wait, because we hear this all the time. What is God's best? What does that mean to you? God's best.
Yeah, personally for me, I think God's best is what is going to be suitable. That's the word I want to use.
That's
what's going to
good.
be suitable for the will, like his will for my life.
Yeah.
I don't think God's best it means flawlessness.
Mhm.
And I don't think God's best means without challenge.
Yes.
Or without any brokenness or
Yeah.
without a story. Because
Yeah.
let me tell you something. Everybody has a story. Everybody has been on a journey. And it's like, I think consciously we understand that. Hey, we all come from somewhere. We all have a background.
We say it.
Hey, we all have flaws. No one's perfect. We say that consciously, but I believe what we need to deal with in today's discussion is what's going on subconsciously.
Yeah.
Because subconsciously we're like, hey, they're not good enough for you anyway. They just have too many flaws. They have too much baggage. And it's like, but doesn't everyone?
Yeah.
So that's why I think that for me personally, I think when we discuss God's best in a relationship, for me that is what is going to be or who is going to be most suitable.
Mhm.
And then also, am I suitable for this other person, what they believe that God's called them to do, his will for their life, suitable. That means it's tailor-made for you.
Mhm.
It doesn't mean, think about it, like if you've ever gotten suited
Yeah.
for a dress
Yeah,
or for
yeah.
an actual suit or pants, whatever the case may be, it's being tailor-made. It's saying, okay, you step up here and we're going to take your measurements in your waist and your seams, all of this, so that this suits you best.
Yeah.
And I think that's what God's best in relationships, for me. That's
Yeah.
how I see it. It's not meaning, I'm sorry, you chew with your mouth open. That's a flaw.
Yeah.
That doesn't vibe for me. I'm not there, but
Yeah, the little things, the little mundane things that can always be changed. I think also it's saying those things we talk about, and we're going to talk about today, being equally yoked and all
Okay.
the Christian jargon. Here's all the religious jargon that we talk about with partnership
Mhm.
or in a marriage, but us having a look for it. So I'm okay with his insides being like this with the attributes of Christ, but the outside has to look a certain way.
Mm.
Like the outside attributes have to look a certain way. I think that's where we get. So it's like, I want the attributes of Jesus, but Jesus, when you send him, he needs
Well,
to.
but a lot of seriously, a lot
Yeah.
of people have preached that. It's
Yeah.
like, hey, this thing needs to be packaged the right way that you like it too.
Mhm.
If I'm on the same page, are you saying more like the physical presentation of the
Physical
person?
presentation, but then also
Okay.
let's talk about maybe, because here's where I think I'm a little irritated. I think that we are literally taking things off the table. I would never date a man with X.
Ooh,
So
I do hear that a lot too.
I would never date a man with children. I would never date a woman with children.
I would never date a certain race.
Yeah.
And we're taking those things off the table automatically, and then we're saying, God, send me your best.
Send me your
It's
best.
like,
And like I said,
wow, I'm
in
limited
prior,
here.
I'm like, yeah, you've got 3 people to choose from, or even we've got people with children. I would never date somebody who didn't have kids because they don't understand. And so we take away, like we say, God, we trust you, we give it to you, but do you really trust him? Because if you
Right.
trusted him, you've got so many stipulations for him. It's
Mm.
like, if I really am saying, and I had to surrender to this because I had a look. And I know for a fact that has kept me where I am right now. I do believe in timing and seasons, and I don't think it was ever the timing because my mindset was not right. But I've always been under the impression of a look. It has to come packaged this way. I would never date a man X. But what if the man with the children was the person who God had for you that was going to be suitable for you? What if the woman with child who already had a child, just from unfortunate circumstances, we house those individuals as like, well, I mean, they should have learned or whatever the case may be, but you don't know their story. And I'm tired of that fight between singles versus unmarried with children and married, which I'm tired of
And
that fight.
and again, here it is, because I'm expecting subconsciously someone to be challenge free.
Yeah.
And I don't care. You could probably get the most ideal workup in a person right now and lay it before you. That person is not going to be challenge free.
Yeah.
It could be something that isn't visible on the outside.
Yeah.
And it could be a mental or emotional challenge that they're going through that many people don't see.
Yeah.
No one is going to come packaged challenge free,
Yeah.
flawless.
Yeah.
They're not going to do that.
Yeah.
So it's helping us in this space when you start talking about choosing or selecting the perfect partner. How do you think about it?
Yeah.
And like digging deep, like what am I expecting? Because your expectations of this Mr. Perfect or Mrs. Perfect is going to keep you by yourself.
And the biggest thing, we talked about this, is I'm tired of people who've gone through that situation and they didn't regard God. So let's just say, hey, listen, you don't want to date a man with no kid. I've done that
you're
before.
talking about from an advice standpoint.
Yeah, I've done that before. I wouldn't go down that path because I can't take your advice when you chose not to regard God for your situation.
Right.
Because I could be regarding God and hearing the voice of God in this instance, and here I am taking your advice, which I would deem as raggedy because it's not coming. You have not got a clearance to tell me this. So here you go telling me this, and now I'm saying, okay, I'm hearing this from, and it could be a trust.
It's wise counsel,
Yeah.
right? There's safety in the multitude of counsel. However, you also have to put on the table that people have grace for different things.
That's right.
Right? And so that's what I'm going back to what we were saying. What does it mean when selecting someone and that they're quote unquote God's best for your life? That is in alignment with his will for your life. And if he has given you a specific will, he's also given you a grace to do that will. Yeah. So I can't believe he has 5 kids. Well, I have been graced by God to be able to infuse with this family. Yeah. And guess what? It doesn't come challenge free, but I'm graced for the challenge.
That's right.
And guess what? That may not be your story.
Yeah.
So I can't, that's a really good point that you're making. You can't take counsel. You have to take counsel with a grain of salt.
That's right.
Because you have to take that counsel and bring it back to God and say, okay, God, listen, I heard this, but here it is. Wisdom starts with you.
That's right.
So I'm bringing this to you. Is this still something, that I'm graced for? Is this something that's a part of your will? Is this someone that you see in my future, in my destiny, for us to, number one, glorify you in? I can't take everybody's advice and then take that as truth. Advice is not truth.
Yeah.
Advice should confirm the truth. Does that make sense?
No, I love that. I even love when, Dad does counseling a lot, premarital counseling. And the one thing he tells them at the end of each session is, now take this information that I've given you and go take that back to God.
Absolutely.
And I love that. I'm like, because it's easy to sit there. I mean, mom and dad have been together for, 40 years. So it's easy to sit there and tell people exactly, let me show you how to, but it's like, but this may not be a specific situation. Like their story is not everyone's story.
I just, I thought about this because we have a lot of friends where all of our parents have been married 30 plus years, 30, 40, 50 years. I mean, beautiful marriages, beautiful families, grandkids, great-grandkids, all of the, kids are all blessed and successful. But what we're seeing a trend is a lot of us are not either in a very committed or serious relationship or either moving towards engagement and marriage. And, we talk about that often. It's like, do we take the models that our parents have? And it's like, that's our expectation of this is the perfect partner.
Yeah. Well, I think that stems from a lot of why we think the way we do. And a lot of times it's like, I've seen my parents raise. So for me, I know in this generation or society of 50-50, some people are like, I'm not having it. I'm not taking care of a man. That's his job. He's supposed to, and we have these gender roles and all the things within marriage. And so I think about it like this. Our mom spent the kind of the first half of their life taking care of my dad financially.
Facts. Honestly, in this society, it would be like thumbs
People
down.
And in fact, I mean, this is just, letting you guys into our life. Her family told her no. Like, I wouldn't do that. That guy is no good. And whatever the case may be, because he was, struggling with, he was doing the drug thing and he was,
And dad was warned by a lot of his people
That's right.
not to marry my mom just because they weren't on the same page on an education
That's
level.
right.
You
Because
know,
because she gave up.
My mom went the trade route.
Yes.
And so she went the trade route for banking.
Yeah.
And although she had been eventually, promoted to branch manager of a bank, it wasn't like a 4-year degree in a college. My dad got a 4-year engineering degree. And so it wasn't equal. And they're like, hey, I would avoid this woman. However, everybody who gave the counsel they have not experienced 40 plus years of marriage.
Not at all. They all pretty much divorced. And so a couple of times. So the thing is, and it's not a negative, it's just like their marriage ended up holding up, going against that is what we would deem.
It didn't look like the perfect partner.
That's right. And they would have deemed that mom, dad, sisters, brothers as wise counsel because they know you the best. But their marriage ended up outlasting a lot of the other people with the wise counsel. So it's just all about, God, I'm regarding you in this and not the voice of others. You can take the counsel, but once you take it, we're shifting it back to you. All right, God, now this is what I've heard. This is what I feel.
And truly, like dad didn't have a strong relationship with God, but he heard God, you need to go and propose to that girl.
And marry her,
And marry her. And my mom said the chip was like, you could barely see, it was like a dust.
Yeah. That's our favorite story to tell.
Piece of dust, a ring. But why? They just had this impression that this is God's best for me.
Yeah.
I love that idea that it doesn't mean flawless, it doesn't mean challenge-free, but I know that this is God's best for me, while we both have room to still grow.
Yeah.
And I think that may be something that our and when I say generation, that's everybody who is alive right now.
Yeah.
So that's not just
millennials.
In on millennials or Generation Z or Generation X. It's everybody who is alive. When we say generation, you're included in that. And I think that this is something that is being pushed on them in the media.
Yes.
And that is ready-made people.
Yes.
Without any room, there's no cultivation, there's no room to grow. It's just they're ready-made.
Yeah. This is where we're getting 666 from. He's got to be this, he's got to be that, she's got to bring something to the table. We're getting all this mess. But I want to get into what do we believe, because this is a big thing in the Christian world. And even, some people are coming into Christian and they're saying like, this equally yoked jargon. Again, and I'm not saying it's jargon in the sense, but it is a word phrase that we use quite often. And you want to make sure you're equally yoked. What do you believe that means to people? If you're like, I want to make sure me and my guy are equally yoked, or vice versa, a man's saying, I want to make sure we're equally yoked. What should they be looking out for to see if we are equally yoked?
You know what? The scripture says this, that you can judge a tree by the fruit it bears.
That's good.
And so I believe that we really do need to inspect fruit better.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like, I go to church every Sunday, or I serve on the what team, and I do the... Yep, I'm looking at fruit.
That's right.
So these are just things that you want me to see. But I'm looking at, how is your intimacy with the Father?
Yes.
Like, do you truly have an intimate relationship with him where he is number one in your life, in the good times, in the bad times, in the in-between, in the disappointments, in the parts of life where you're experiencing grief? That's when people starts to see your relationship with God.
Yeah.
Right? We also get a chance to see, I think it's very important, what are you being taught? Because there are so many different reformations, there's so many different denominations, and we can agree that Jesus is Lord. We can agree that Jesus is the Son of God, and we can agree on that. But there are also other different types of teachings that can destroy a marriage.
Whew, yes.
It can destroy it. And I just don't believe it's that big of a deal to do X, Y, Z. That's minor. However, we're going to take this minor molehill and make a mountain. And so I really do believe that there should be an alignment of even teachings, who we're submitted to.
Yeah.
What type of church what type of teacher or preacher do we gravitate to? Because I tell you, two visions makes a two-headed monster.
That's right.
And when you sit there and say like, okay, my personal relationship with God is number one, great. I think that we're equal there. However, if we think differently from a teaching standpoint, everything that we believe is based off of who taught us.
That's right.
Even as an adult, the reason you do what you do is based off of how you were taught.
Yeah.
Primarily.
That's right.
So it's very, very big on what you're being taught. So what church do you go to? I think in the dating phase, that would really behoove people to let me visit your church. What are you guys being taught? What do y'all believe?
My biggest thing is how are we getting from the point where we're dating this person, we realize, and I'm a big thing, and I'll go back to this really quick. A lot of people are saying, I believe in God, but what does that mean? Do you believe in God, but do you also believe that he has a son named Jesus Christ and that the only way to him is through him, Jesus Christ? And so a lot of people believe in God, but they put God under the universe. So it's really digging deep into those questions of what does that mean when you say you believe in God? Do you believe in Jesus as well? Because some people don't know Jesus is Lord. I mean,
oh, absolutely.
So it's like, I just believe in God and the universe. And it's like, well, you can't, one created the other. So you can't believe it. You know what I mean? What do you mean you believe in the universe? He is that because he created that.
Mm-hmm.
Without that, it was no, you know what I mean? Without him, there's no that. So it's about digging deep. But where do you think this issue, because this is what I find in the issue is we know what we believe, right? We know we're our faith, but we're getting partnered up with people that don't really believe, and we're still getting married to them. What do you think is happening in that frame of work? And I have an indication. I think it goes back to that desperation for marriage.
I was just going to say that because you're willing to discount what you say is primary in your life, all in the name of getting this.
Yeah.
And it is not worth it.
No.
Like, you're going to get to this crossroad and somebody's going to disagree with someone. I'd rather be with someone that's on the same page with me in what we believe about God and what we believe about Jesus. So therefore, disagreements is going to, they're going to happen. Challenges are going to come. In this world, we're going to have tribulation. So I need somebody to at least be on the same page with me with this. This is the bottom line. The word of God is the final authority.
That's right.
You can have your opinion. I can have my opinion. We can think this and all of this stuff. But at the end of the day, we are both held accountable to what this word says.
Yeah.
If I'm not on the same page with that, you're over here saying somebody else is God and there's another way. I just think that there are different ways to get to God. Okay. That is not even worth being in covenant.
There you go.
I cannot take that risk of being in covenant with someone who is not at the bottom line on the same page with me with that equally yoked.
Because I always think about a home. And I think about the home can't go up unless there's a solid foundation.
That's good.
So for me, I'm like, what is our solid foundation in why we're here? Like, what the reason for our being, our vessels being here on this earth, what is our foundation? And if you think differently than why I think on why I'm here, there's no need to go into covenant, make children, confuse them. There's no point. So you stay over there and believe what you believe, because I believe like in Matthew 6, it says, go and tell them the truth. And if they don't, keep going.
Keep going.
We're not here to debate and make you think the way I do. There's no point. There's billions of people on the planet, but you keep moving. But that desperation for marriage, it's what's causing us to kind of say, well, maybe I can skimp a little bit on that foundation, but you can't. Without a solid foundation, the house will crumble. And we're seeing that happen again at an all-time rapid rate. The houses are crumbling.
They're crumbling because you can't build a home on that.
You can't.
And that's so true. I think here's one thing practically, because I know you're really big on practicality.
Yes.
To figure out if you're really on the same page or equally yoked, if you go back to the definition of that, what they used to do, because it was an agricultural world, they would have a yoke around two of the equally sized animals. And they're saying if one gets tired, they can put their head down and the other person can carry the load. That was the whole purpose of yoking them together.
Yeah.
If you guys are incredibly different in strength and size, ability, one person is carrying more load than the other.
Yeah.
So there is no equally yoked.
That's true.
You see what I'm saying? From a practical standpoint, I wanted to give you that illustration, but from a practical standpoint, it has to break down to this: commitment versus interest.
Yes.
And most people
That's good.
have a relationship with God from an interest level only.
Yes.
I'm just interested. I think it gives me chill bumps when I worship. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's cool, right? And I think it's pretty cool to be in a community, and people around, and we can talk and hang out and grab coffee from here and there. And hey, and at least I can say I have 5 or 6 different friends now, right? They're at the interest level.
That's right.
But then there are some people that are committed to their relationship with God. They have died so that He lives through them. It reminds me of the chicken and the pig. Remember the story that Dad tells?
That always tells.
And it says, hey, the chicken came up to the pig and said, hey, can we provide breakfast for the farmer? I think he's been an awesome farmer. And the pig says, hey, listen, for you to provide breakfast for the farmer, all you have to do is be interested. You just provide an egg.
But I got to make
But
a
for
commitment.
me, I have to commit my life.
Ooh.
I have to die to provide this.
That's
And
right.
so when you start talking about equally yoked, you don't want to make sure that everybody's on that same page. Man, I have given up my life.
Yeah.
For me to live is for Christ, but to die is gain. I have died so that Christ lived to me. I have died to what I want to do, then what I believe is right,
Yes.
what I think other people, I've died to that.
Yeah.
It's not my will, it's not my way, it's him.
Yeah.
If someone's not on the same page with you with that,
Yeah.
you're going to run into some issues.
Yes. And I think that this starts, just kind of wrapping up here, this starts from you knowing your foundation. You knowing your foundation.
Mhm.
And that way, when you go to meet someone, you go to be interested or you're on a date, if you know what you stand for, then it's easy to seek out
True.
the truth. So I know, what are you standing on? What are we standing on together so we can build a healthy foundation for longevity in relationships and marriage?
So there is no perfect partner out there,
There is not.
right? But there is one that is suitable for you.
Yeah.
There people are going to come with brokenness. They're going to come with in their soul, right?
Yeah.
Those are things that through the renewal of their mind with truth, I'm telling you that can mend. You can grow together. It's going to be beautiful. God gets the glory out of it. In their spirit, they're whole. They're sealed. They're committed. All of those good things. But we're going to work together to really give God the big glory.
Yeah. I think that's great.
I loved it.
All right.